Hi, I am Chandni. Uh, I'm going to run the next 50 minutes of this workshop where I'm hoping to get you interested in using agents as a way of including AI in your data visualization process. So there's some resources in the worksheet up here, so you can scan this code and get on it while I talk to you about what I do, a little bit of my background. I am trained as an architect, and then in my first startup, I built multisensory tools for children with disabilities to be able to access learning material using tactile, audio, different media of information. And after the startup got acquired, I've been a product designer and a design educator. I teach accessibility, user interface design, and so on. And so the reason why this workshop has sort of been important to me is education is changing, especially higher education is changing a lot. The way we work is changing, and one of the big questions in my mind is, as an educator, how am I going to help students work with AI with more comfort, with more trust, more reliability? So these are some of the questions on my mind, and this workshop to me is like an experiment in how do we start learning with AI. So quick, getting a sense of the room. Is there anybody here who's never used AI ever? I'm not surprised. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about in all of your interactions with AI, some quick questions. Has anybody felt surprised by what AI can do, or amazed, or positive surprise? Okay, yeah, all right. That's great, thank you. Have you felt fear? Anybody? Yep, relatable, very fair. What about, have you felt frustration in your work? Definitely, yeah. I mean, this is really impressive software, incredible tools, right? And it's still very frustrating because from my point of view, I feel like we're at the very beginning of AI tool development, and we don't have good tools yet, which sort of brings me to, so in this workshop, we're going to look at what AI can do. We're going to look at different ways of doing data analysis. We will do some testing of workflows, and very importantly, put in checkpoints that help you build a more robust system. Okay, quick activity. We're over the next 5 minutes. So we also need to organize you in groups. You'll be working in groups of 3. So if you're on a table without more people, maybe you want to join another table. I feel like you're all well spaced out. It's okay. So groups of up to 3. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so here's your task. Goal 1 is identify, each of you pitch in 1 sentence any data visualization work that you've done. Pick a simple chart, just pitch it to each other, and then as a group, pick one of the more interesting ones for you and use the worksheets you have on your table to dissect the process. And I'll quickly tell you why I want you to do that. So here's my theory about working with AI, is that if you just tell this language model or image model to go do something, you're very likely you're not going to be happy with the outcome. And my theory is that if you're able to decompose the parts of the process well enough and use AI in the right ways and build checkpoints to sort of make sure that the output is what you want, then maybe we'll have better results with it. So first part of the activity is to retrospectively, yeah, you can take the next 5 minutes to do that. So that's the first few parts of the activities are going to be quick, so don't take too much time with it. I'll tell you when your 5 minutes are up. Oh, I'm sorry. Some missing worksheets. right, I hope that was sufficient time to, to write a data recipe. So what we're going to do with this now, I hope you finish, I really hope you finish, because I need you to pass your recipe on to, no, you need more time? Oh, I'm sorry. um, some more. Okay, let's do 2 more minutes. All right, as you finish up, let me also tell you about why I'm calling this a data recipe. And so I was looking for alternative metaphors to use because I think we anthropomorphize AI too much, and it's a bit of a problem. And I'm trying to use the concept of a kitchen and a recipe, and think of AI as tools that you use for specific purposes, and not like be the chef taking over your kitchen. So if you've completed the data recipe that you created, you can pick yours up and pass it on to the table next to yours. So just go around. If you get 2, then just pass it along. Do you want to try this table? These guys? All right, does everybody have a new recipe at your table now? All right. Let's take a breather and talk about what AI can do, which I'm sure many of you are very familiar with. And we'll also think about what AI can enable you to do. There's a missing AI here. Okay. So I'm going to very quickly share some examples of the ways I've seen people use AI or the ways I've used AI in my process. So a quick example. So the talks in the morning were also some of very impressive examples, especially Carlo is not in the room, but oh yeah, there you are. Yeah, that was a really interesting use case. So one of the things I was interested in was I wanted to see how good is AI at analyzing text and stories. So I looked at, I work with Claude most of the time. I asked it to list the types of events in the Bible. It gave me a bunch of options, and I picked the last one, death and resurrection, and sort of dug into it a little bit more. And asked it to make a table listing the number of people who died in the story and the cause. So it is really pretty good. It's and of course, how do you know if it's correct? Like, I haven't read the whole text, and I'm not about to go back and check. And so one of the ways is, of course, you could consult an expert, or you could go to another tool and ask ChatGPT, for example, to check if it was correct. And I think, of course, it's not foolproof, but it's a good way to validate your data at a surface level. And yeah, the next question I asked, and it was pretty impressive, got to say. So I think its capabilities. Well, I'm not trying to stir up any trouble, but just as an example of what's possible. And I went ahead and did that with the Mahabharata, another epic from a different part of the world, and did the same. It was able to, again, list individuals, but it was not able to list numbers. It wasn't able to sort of do that data crunching and give me numbers. Instead, it started to sermonize me and say the tragedy of the Mahabharata isn't really about which side killed more people, but about how the pursuit of righteous war led to the virtual extinction of an entire civilization. So it does have limitations, and I think it's not just, it's because of the nature of the text that you're working with. The Bible is like a really easy example because it's highly standardized, like there's a reference, and it's also very specific. It has a lot of details, whereas in other cultures and literature are more fuzzy. They don't mention numbers, but they might have more poetic, more philosophical ways of describing events. And so there are things that work well and some things that don't. Another instance I tried was I wanted to understand gender differences in the Tamil film industry. So to show you what I'm talking about, Tamil Nadu is a state on the south of India, and that's where I'm from. And I was interested in my film industry. So I wanted to try to show you what the film industry looks like, and I asked Claude to make a map. And as you can see, it's not very good at maps, because I will talk about that later, but it's not good at maps because it's not accessing map data. It's just sort of trying to answer your question. So that's another thing that I've noticed is AI is really good at a lot of things, but it's also terrible at saying no. It almost never says, I don't have this information. It's not trained to push back ever. So I created this terrible map, but it's still useful for me to show you that there's multiple film industries, and I'm interested specifically in Tamil Nadu. So I got this data. I asked it to list the lead actors, male and female, in over the last 70 years. And this is what I saw. So apparently men start their careers, and if they become a star, they just go on. There is no retirement. That's the red dots. And women, on the other hand, the blue dots, are tend to be much younger. They tend to be also, their careers tend to be shorter. So in case you're not able to, so the y-axis is the age, and the x-axis is the year that the movie came out, and I'm plotting the actors' ages. Again, so I'm only showing this to you because this data was collected by Claude. So it's a good example of how it can work. So one is this. A lot of this data is on IMDb, sure, you can access that, but I also asked other questions, like what is the character's age that they were playing? So this is an example of one male actor. So as they're aging, they're still playing like characters that are much younger than themselves. And also you'll see this clustering around the ages 35, 45, and 55. It's because AI is making these estimations. It's making guesses about what the character's age is. And also, films could like follow a character across many decades. So this is definitely an estimation. So this brings me to a question, like we spoke about this earlier in one of the panels, how do we show that this is not a fact, but a judgment by AI? And this is going to increasingly, like, as we use more language models, this is going to come up, and maybe we need a standardized way of showing it, maybe we get creative with it, but something to think about. To contrast, this is a female star's career. She's been active till the ripe old age of 32. So, anyway, so I wanted to go through some quick examples. So just to help you think about this, so language models can create natural language output. It can also analyze natural language. And I make this distinction between natural language code and data, because they could all just be text, but just to tell you that they are treated differently. And then there are image models, and the check marks are the examples that I showed you of how it works. And I haven't checked them all. That's for you to do, so you can find like areas of interest for you, and through the rest of the workshop, you can test how images are generated, how images are analyzed, like Carlo's example this morning. Now we can move on to activity 2, which is now that you've received a new recipe that you did not make, I want you to think about ways to use AI, like, because you didn't make that recipe, so feel free to look at it from these different angles. One, what are the areas where AI could help you expand the scope? What are the places where the process could be faster or easier? What are the places where it's less reliable and you should be really cautious? Or some places where it just simply makes it harder. So go ahead and identify, like, use these lenses to make your own new recipe for working with AI. right, I hope that was fun. We're at time. I'm going to now, for the next phase, I'm going to share some tools with you to sort of start building. At this stage, you might have worked with how you think AI might help. We're going to now move into testing if some of your ideas were actually going to work. So at this stage, I think we should talk about, how a model like Claude actually produces data visualizations if you asked it to. So I wanted to explore character arcs and stories. This is another example I want to share with you. So I did some data collection. I used film scripts database. So I was able to access like entire scripts of movies. And I used AI at different stages, and I'll show you how. So I picked up Seinfeld, the pilot episode. I have not watched it. I picked it deliberately to prevent myself from getting into a rabbit hole. But I think it's a good example of, so this is what I asked AI to do. I fed the script into Claude and said, I want to understand how different characters feel throughout the episode. And I asked it to pick specific moments in the episode that are noteworthy. So that's judgment call 1. So AI is deciding which ones are important. And 2, I also asked it to decide who are the lead characters. I don't actually know, and it's able to still, I think it got it right. And then again, the third level of judgment is it's making the scale of how they're feeling at different points of time. And with just one prompt, it's able to sort of make this dashboard. Now, this works, but obviously, I don't believe anybody in this room would be happy with something like this to go ahead and publish it. So that's the part I want to talk about next is how do you sort of go from here to having some initial explorations to having like a half-baked prototype maybe. It's very helpful, but it's not going to do the job, right? So, and if you go into what code has been written, it's not really working with, it's not writing all of the JavaScript, it's not writing the behavior, it's really just hard coding everything into an HTML document that you can download, and then if you try to work with it, that's not how we work, and we have like much better, more sophisticated ways to work with it. So I think, especially with data visualization, because our workflows are so complex, I also want to talk about how you can build your own workflow, which is what the workshop is about. So I'm going to introduce 2 tools. The first one is N8N. It is a visual programming language. You can go on it. The website is n8n.io. The link is on the resources page I shared earlier. So it allows you to visually sort of set up these different steps. In the last couple activities, you've been thinking about these steps, so maybe some of those will translate into a workflow like this. And the word agent is a somewhat loosely defined term, but I think it's going to stick because of the way it's going to be part of many tools in the future. So what makes an AI agent that's different from an AI model is that it's an agent that's linked to a tool where it can make decisions or make actions based on some reasoning that you've asked it to do. So it takes input and it's connected to an AI model. In this case, it's Anthropic, and it's connected to memory, so it has context. So as you pass repeatedly, as it processes different tasks, it also has some context of the previous tasks that it has processed. So it's not working from scratch every time. And then it's also linked to some kind of tool where it will actually take action. And the tool could be email, it could be your Google Drive, anything, or any data visualization platform you use. As long as you're able to access the API, you should be able to connect it to your agent. So this is sort of like a blueprint of how an agent works, and then you could build multiple such modules and set it up. And on N8N, one of the more interesting nodes is they have a node called human in the loop, which I think is essential. So you don't just want to trigger a workflow that just works on its own. There's going to be multiple points where you want to look at what's happening and maybe direct what happens next. So you could go, if you're comfortable linking to APIs and building integrations. Go try it out now, but I would suggest that this is more for like homework for later. A better tool to use is computer.tldraw.com. So it's another playground for testing small AI loops. It is also multimodal, which I think is the future of AI workflows. But it works currently with text and images. It doesn't do code. It doesn't do data or tables. So it's limited right now. It's a wonderful experiment. You should definitely try it. So in this example, let me walk through how it works. So up here, you have the instruction, the input. Oops, I shouldn't have clicked. The input, you can put in any words you like. In this case, the example they've used is basket cats. And it's set up to write the rules of an imaginary game. And it writes out all these rules. And there's another prompt up here. It's like, so every instruction is a prompt that you can link to an output. So you can go through this again. This is also on the resources page. And the output is that it's created what it thinks basket cats can be like a game. So there's definitely cats and baskets and people celebrating. And you can also instruct it to make it look like a 1981 newspaper sports photograph. So I like the layout, the interface as it's a creative way to collaborate. So definitely go try that out. N8N maybe for later because the setup is going to take you some time. So that brings us to activity 3. So here's what I want you to do. So you've looked at different processes. You've probably got some inspiration from the talks in the morning. And you definitely have some ideas about what AI is going to be able to do and what it's not going to be able to do. So I want you to test some of your hypotheses. Go to any tool that you like. You could go on computer.tldraw or just go to any ChatGPT or Claude or your Copilot, anything at all, to test some of the hypotheses that you put into your recipe that you created. You will have 15 minutes to do this, and I'm happy to come around to talk to you. it sounds like you're all having fun. We're gonna have to close the workshop so you can go have your coffee break. And for the last few minutes, I'm gonna turn the music off. All right, for the last few minutes, so I'm sure everybody's learned something today, I hope. And so if you don't mind coming up here to share what you learned, and I'm only saying that because it makes it easier for the video to capture what you're saying. So any volunteers, if you learned something from your process when you tested your hypotheses, were you right? What did you learn that AI can do for you, or were you surprised by any of the prompts you tried? Any brave volunteers who want to come up here? Okay, sorry. If I understand if that's. Oh, come along. Thank you.
So what do you just like what we learned?
What hypotheses did you test and what you learned?
So after a long deliberation, we found that you kind of had a little bit of everything. It was kind of a gray area where, depending on how you prompted it and how you used the AI, you could have good or bad results. You know, which seems kind of obvious, but it is really kind of the crux of using AI, right? That was the main takeaway that I took from it.
Yeah, and like basically we have like a whole process and pipeline of data visualization, right? From ideation to like the end product. And then in each step of this process, AI can be used as a tool to help, but then it's not at a point where AI can just like take control of it, especially the whole process. There's always gonna be human in the loop. Human has to either double check if the AI work is correct or not. But then, for example, if you're having a block and you are running out of ideas on a project that you're working on, maybe AI can like help spark some type of idea with your visualization or throughout your process. So AI, I think it's like to help, but not to take control of the whole process.
Yeah.
That's what I think. Thank you. That's really helpful. More thoughts?
Any more thoughts? Yep.
Or yeah, if you don't want to come up here, I think I'm happy to move the mic around. Does anybody want to share? Yeah. Let's go.
Well, I took the exact question that I had gotten from my stakeholders and fairly recently put it in AI. It gave me pretty much the same ideas that I came up with. I asked it to give me some samples, and it gave me some samples that were absolutely perfect for me to come back to my stakeholders with and say, which of these would you like?
That's really cool.
So our team was interested in looking at the rise of the mullet and asked the large language model, this was just in a ChatGPT interface, to give us some ideas and a background of the history on the rise of the mullet through the last 70 years or so. And so after it summarized that, it stated that I was a data visualization developer and that I was looking to get some ideas for a Viz. And it recommended 5 really solid options. I think it was the latest OpenAI model, like 4.1 or something like that. And so we chose one, and we said, what are the audience considerations? What questions might the audience have after looking at this visualization? And it gave some really good feedback there. Then asked it to create a chart, which it did via text, like with text symbols in the actual chat browser. And then I said, I need R code. And so it gave me some ggplot code. I generated that, copied the generated image back into the interface, and said, give me feedback on this. What questions would the audience have? And it was really constructive. It was really solid advice. And I think every step of the way, it was something that I would have done with someone else. And so we were pretty surprised by the results.
You were effectively vibe coding. Yeah. All right. Anybody else? This is just the way we're wrapping up. I'm hoping you can all learn from each other.
So the big thing for us at the beginning was the identification of data sources. So as a designer myself, all too frequently I'm like, what do I use? It's like going into a grocery store hungry. Everything looks like an option. You're like, raw eggs, all right, let's get this going. But having a funnel point and a logic behind it made the choice process in the beginning a little easier as we considered data sources associated with wines and their quality. Not quite mullets.
I like how whimsical all the topics are. Any other interesting insights from your experience? We have a few more minutes before you can go get your coffee. All right, so I was trying to get folks to come up here so we could make this a video, but yeah. So this was an experiment. I think I'm learning as much as all of you. I hope you're all learning. Thank you for trusting me with the process. I hope it was an interesting way to look at your own process more closely and make more intentional decisions about where to use AI and how to use it and how to make it a more trustworthy process. Thank you so much for being here.